Let me tell you about something that happened this weekend that should be getting wall-to-wall coverage, but mysteriously isn't. Donald Trump walked down the stairs of Air Force One, and the footage reveals a man who is clearly struggling with basic physical coordination and mobility. Now, before anyone accuses me of making a mountain out of a molehill, I want to be absolutely clear about why this matters and why we need to talk about it. This isn't newsworthy because an elderly person had trouble with stairs. This is newsworthy because of the massive double standard in how our media covers presidential health and fitness, because the White House is actively covering up Trump's declining physical condition, and because the same outlets that ran nonstop coverage questioning Joe Biden's fitness over similar incidents are now pretending nothing happened when Trump displays the exact same signs of deterioration. Let's start by actually looking at what happened because the details matter and they paint a concerning picture. Trump emerges from Air Force One, and before he even attempts the stairs, he does this weird hand-slapping gesture against his leg. Now, I'm going to be fair here because that's what actual journalism requires. That hand slap could be completely innocuous. I've seen plenty of people do similar gestures when they're waiting impatiently for something. Maybe he was waiting for the people behind him to get in position so they could descend together. Maybe it was just a nervous habit or an impatient tic. The simplest explanation is probably the right one, and in this case, the simplest explanation is that he was just marking time while waiting. But here's where things get interesting and concerning. Some articles and medical professionals have suggested that gesture could indicate he was trying to wake up his leg or restore feeling to his hand. Those are absolutely possibilities worth considering given what happens next. Because while the hand slap might be nothing, what follows definitely isn't nothing. Trump begins descending those stairs, and immediately you can see he's struggling. These aren't even particularly challenging stairs. They're standard aircraft stairs that thousands of people navigate every single day without issue, but Trump is moving like someone who's genuinely uncertain about his own physical capabilities. By the way, I am trying to do my best to gather all the information I can for you and share it with you. Please leave your likes and comments, and I would be grateful if you subscribed. Let's continue. Watch his eyes throughout the entire descent. He's staring down at his feet the whole time. He's not looking up. He's not waving to crowds. He's not projecting confidence or strength. He's completely focused on not missing a step because he appears genuinely concerned about his ability to navigate these stairs safely. And at several points during the descent, he does something that should raise eyebrows. He's placing both feet on a single step before attempting the next one. That's not how physically capable adults descend stairs. That's how you teach toddlers to handle stairs when they're first learning. That's how small children who haven't developed full coordination yet move up and down steps. I know this because I've literally been watching my puppies learn to navigate stairs in my house using this exact same technique, one step at a time, both feet planted before attempting the next level. It's a compensatory strategy used by individuals who don't trust their balance or coordination enough to move fluidly. And that's what the sitting president of the United States was doing on camera, descending from Air Force One. A 79-year-old man who the White House insists is in perfect health was moving downstairs like a toddler, learning basic motor skills. Now let me be clear about something important. Physical decline with age is completely normal and expected. Nobody should be shamed for getting older or losing some physical capabilities as they age. That's part of being human. And struggling with stairs by itself doesn't necessarily indicate cognitive decline. What it does indicate is significant physical decline, loss of coordination, loss of balance, decreased mobility overall. These are concerning signs in someone who holds the most demanding job in the world, someone who might need to respond quickly to crises, someone whose physical stamina and mental acuity are supposed to be adequate for the enormous pressures of the presidency. But here's what makes this story absolutely infuriating and why I'm spending time on what might otherwise be a minor incident. If Joe Biden had descended stairs exactly the way Trump just did, we would be drowning in coverage right now. Every cable news network would be running that clip on loop. Medical experts would be brought on to analyze his gait and speculate about neurological conditions. Opinion columnists would be writing pieces about whether he's fit for office. Republican politicians would be demanding cognitive tests and releasing embarrassing statements about the 25th Amendment. The footage would be dissected frame by frame and replayed thousands of times over the course of 4 or 5 days minimum. We know this would happen because it already happened. Biden had several incidents involving stares during his presidency. Some were worse than what we just saw from Trump. Some were comparable. And every single time, the media went absolutely insane with coverage. They treated each stumble like it was definitive proof that Biden was too old and too frail to be president. They questioned his fitness relentlessly. They used those incidents to build a narrative about cognitive decline and physical deterioration that ultimately contributed to pressure on him not to run for re-election. But Trump does the exact same thing, displays the same concerning signs of physical decline, moves downstairs like someone with serious coordination and balance issues. And what happens? 95% of the media can't even be bothered to mention it. There's no wall-to-wall coverage. There's no medical panel discussions. There's no breathless speculation about his health. It's just crickets. A few outlets might mention it in passing. Some social media accounts share the clip. But there's no sustained coverage, no narrative being built about Trump's fitness, no pressure being applied for transparency about his actual health status. That's not journalism. That's not holding power accountable. That's a double standard so blatant and so egregious that it should embarrass every outlet engaging in it. The media created rules about how presidential health and physical fitness should be covered when they went after Biden relentlessly. But apparently those rules only apply to Democratic presidents. When a Republican shows the same signs of decline, suddenly everyone's concerned about being respectful and not making too much of minor incidents. And let's talk about what the White House is saying, because that matters too. They're claiming Trump is in perfect health. Perfect health. A 79-year-old man who can barely navigate a short flight of stairs without staring at his feet and taking baby steps is supposedly in perfect health, according to official statements. That's not spin. That's not political messaging. That's a flat-out lie. It's a cover-up designed to hide the reality of Trump's declining physical condition from the American people who have a right to know about the health of their president. This should sound familiar because we went through similar concerns about transparency during Biden's presidency. People demanded full disclosure about his health. They wanted detailed medical reports. They questioned whether he was being honest about his physical and cognitive capabilities. And you know what? Those were legitimate questions. The American people deserve transparency about presidential health regardless of who's in office. But if those questions were legitimate when applied to Biden, they're equally legitimate when applied to Trump. The difference is nobody in mainstream media seems willing to ask them with the same intensity and persistence. Think about what we're actually witnessing here. A president who is visibly struggling with basic physical tasks, a White House that's lying about his health status, a media establishment that's refusing to cover this story with anywhere near the intensity they brought to similar incidents involving his predecessor, and a political environment where pointing out these obvious problems gets dismissed as partisan attacks rather than being recognized as legitimate oversight and accountability journalism. This isn't about ageism. This isn't about mocking someone for getting older. This is about honesty and transparency regarding the physical capabilities of the person holding the most powerful position in the world. If Trump is experiencing significant physical decline, if his coordination and balance and mobility are deteriorating, if he's having trouble with tasks that should be routine for someone in his position, the American people deserve to know that. They deserve to know it from honest medical reporting, not from White House propaganda claiming everything is perfect when video evidence shows otherwise. And here's what really gets me. The same people who spent years attacking Biden's age and fitness are now completely silent about Trump's obvious physical struggles. The same media outlets that ran endless segments questioning whether Biden could handle the presidency based on how he walked are now looking the other way when Trump displays comparable or worse signs of decline. The hypocrisy is stunning. The double standard is undeniable. And the impact on public trust in media and institutions is devastating. Because when people see this kind of blatant bias, when they watch the rules being applied completely differently based on partisan affiliation, they stop trusting that they're getting honest information. They start assuming everything is propaganda designed to support one side or attack the other. And you know what? They're not entirely wrong to think that. when coverage of presidential health depends entirely on whether the president has a D or an R next to their name, that's not journalism. That's partisan advocacy masquerading as news. I'm covering this story precisely because most outlets won't. I'm highlighting this footage precisely because it deserves the same scrutiny that similar Biden incidents received. I'm calling out the White House's lies about Trump's health precisely because transparency matters regardless of party. And I'm pointing out the media's double standard precisely because that double standard is corrosive to democratic accountability and public trust. Trump struggled to walk downstairs. He moved uncertainly, stared at his feet, and used compensatory techniques that suggest serious concerns about his balance and coordination. Those are observable facts captured on video. The White House is lying by claiming he's in perfect health. That's a verifiable falsehood contradicted by the evidence. And the media is failing to cover this story with anything approaching the intensity they brought to Biden's similar struggles. That's a demonstrable double standard. None of those statements are partisan. None of them are unfair. They're just true. And the fact that stating obvious truths about Trump's physical decline feels like a controversial act shows how broken our media environment has become. We've normalized covering for him. We've accepted that different standards apply. We've decided that aggressive accountability journalism is only appropriate for some presidents, but not others. That's not sustainable. That's not how democracies are supposed to function. When the press decides selectively when to do its job based on political considerations, when transparency becomes optional depending on whose health we're discussing, when obvious physical decline gets ignored because covering it might help the wrong side politically, we've lost something essential. We've abandoned the basic premise that holding power accountable matters more than partisan loyalty. So, I'm going to keep covering stories like this. I'm going to keep pointing out when Trump displays signs of physical or cognitive decline. I'm going to keep calling out White House lies about his health. And I'm going to keep highlighting media double standards because someone needs to. Someone needs to apply the same standards to Trump that were applied to Biden. Someone needs to demand the same transparency. Someone needs to ask the same hard questions about fitness and capability and whether the American people are being lied to about their president's condition. If that makes me unpopular with people who want to pretend Trump is fine, so be it. If that gets me attacked for being unfair or partisan, I'll wear that criticism proudly because I know it's not true. I'm applying exactly the standards that were applied to Biden. I'm asking exactly the questions that were asked about Biden's health. The only difference is I'm willing to ask them about Trump too, and apparently in today's media environment, that's considered radical. But it shouldn't be. It should be baseline journalism. It should be what every outlet does automatically. And the fact that it's not, the fact that most media organizations are giving Trump a pass on health concerns they would have relentlessly covered if Biden displayed them, tells you everything you need to know about how compromised and broken our information ecosystem has become. The rules don't apply equally. The standards change based on partisanship, and the American people are being systematically deceived about the physical condition of their president. That's the real story here. Not that an elderly man struggled with stairs, but that our institutions, both governmental and media, have decided truthfulness about that struggle is optional based on political calculations. And if we accept that, if we let this double standard continue without calling it out, we're complicit in the degradation of the very accountability mechanisms that are supposed to protect democracy from leaders who are no longer capable of doing the job.